Polo and Tell, is that you?
Bro, we are going to review a cartoon using the Mic Check Waifu anime scale. It's different.
Clearly a super popular cartoon too, but
yes.
Yeah.
So what we decided to do, shout out to Philip J. Woodward for giving us the idea to review Invincible, because it's 2 weeks removed from the season finale. It's settled in, it's settled down, got to marinate with it a little bit, and now we're going to review it. The way our review works, we're going to review Invincible. The way our review works is that we rate 5 categories using a 20-point scale. That 20-point scale is 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, all the way up into 10. Those 5 categories that we rate individually are animation, sound design, pacing, plot, and characters. Once we rate all of those categories, we then combine those scores into one overall score for each person, and then combine each person's score into an overall Mic Check Waifu score. So, with that being said, this is the review. Starting with animation. What did you think of Invincible's animation?
No glaring issues to me. It just wasn't like, I guess we're used to watching anime, which always seems to have a significantly higher quality
Facts.
animation. So to me, I have to give it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah. For me, it wasn't much special, right? Like, it wasn't anything to write home about. Like cartoons, they're relatively stiff. There were some moments though that looked really, really cool. Inside
like the flying through the towns.
Yeah.
I guess also when you say, I think about that train scene that had to be
right. But for me, it was about a 7 as well, which isn't bad, but it isn't that great either.
It's above average.
Definitely above average for sure. What was your favorite animated part in the entire series?
It was one. I mean, it was that whole final episode, because the train scene, and then when he was beating down his son, Omni-Man was beating down his son, like just how overall everything looked was like ridiculous, but also every scene of them like getting thrown through the town and like them actually flying around. I know it was like slight CGI, but it actually, I guess because it was a cartoon, it felt better, like placed better than it would in an anime. If you get what I mean.
Yeah. It's gonna kind of be hard to get out of the mindset of anime, you know, because it's a cartoon.
Right.
Like, it's significantly different to just regular anime. So for me, I think a 7 is about right though, even taking that into consideration. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What was your favorite animated scene though?
My favorite animated scene was probably the fight between him and the cyborg. That was like extremely interesting to me. The way they, like, I guess the way he was losing that fight, if that makes sense.
Beating him down.
Yeah, exactly. It was kind of fucking him up, which was super interesting because it was beautiful. It looked good.
Yeah,
because the background actually moved well. That's my main issue with this show though. A lot of the background seemed really off.
It was static for you.
Yeah, super static for me, and that's what I couldn't do. All right, moving on. Let's move on to the sound design of Invincible. Now, the sound design includes the soundtrack, composition, sound effects, and how well they tied it to the visuals.
All right. So you want to lead with this one?
Yeah. So for sound design, for me, the soundtrack was fucking fire, man. And it probably is because it was music more akin to what I like the slow R&B with a little bit of like, you know, a beat to it, but with a nice soft rock they have in there too would be extremely dope. And in the moments that those Like those tracks came in were just beautiful, perfectly timed with whatever was going on. Whether it feels like a slow moment or just a scene transition, it flowed extremely nicely. As far as the sound effect goes, they were fucking deadly, bro. It was the squishes and the squashes and the
right,
and it just the punches had so much impact. I enjoy the sound quality of this show probably second to anything else. For me, the sound design gets an 8.5.
So I agree with everything you said. The sound design to me was amazing. I won't say amazing, but it was one of the better parts of the show, musicality wise. The actual impact of how everything happened in the show, the whooshing when people fly by, that kind of stuff. All of it just really synchronized. I think that's what American cartoons do very well.
Yes.
Because you will see sometimes in anime, the sound design just isn't like up to par, up to what you think it should be. And this consistently seemed like it was above par.
Facts.
So I gave it a 9.
9. Okay. All right. Sweet. Okay. So now the best part of the show to me, we're going to go on to the pacing. Now, the pacing consists of episode to episode strength and continuity, how well the story was developed and it unfolded as the series went on.
Okay. So pacing for me in this show, we talked about it before, especially in comparing to like Yasuke. They did the timing of everything in this show very, very well. How everything hit and synchronized was on point. Probably one of the best parts about it is that nothing just seemed out of place. Like when something happened, it seemed like there was correlation to everything in like a chain reaction, like a domino effect where things happen. So pacing for me, very simple, straightforward. It's a 9.
Interesting. Yeah. Pacing was probably some of the best I've seen in a very long time. There were 45-minute episodes. Didn't feel like it whatsoever. Like at all. They didn't have a lot of downtime to where I felt bored or I was wanting moment to moment action. Times where I was like checking the time to make sure the episode wasn't about to end when I still had like 35 minutes left. I was excited. You know what I'm saying? Watching them, like just the moment to moment action and the story played out was paced extremely well. For me, I'm gonna go 9.5. For me, it's a little bit higher.
You know, for Polo to play something that high for pacing,
it was real good, man.
That means so Polo could have watched that. If he would have watched that week to week, he'd have been salty, is what that means. He'd have been mad. He'd have been mad. He'd have been like, I want more.
That's a good point because I watched it all the way through until the final episode dropped. So
he'd have been like, no, I need more. No, dude, it was too. Everything's happening perfectly.
Yes, it was like a long movie. I enjoyed every bit of it.
Yeah.
All right. Next up is the plot. Now, the plot entails the overall story and how well it was written, how well the story resonated with us as the viewer.
So the plot is my favorite part of the story.
Okay.
And I'm not a big superhero fan. I'm not a big superhero fan, but the plot of this show in general just really resonated a lot with me in terms of like overall the main character being like who we would assume is Superman, but also not being who we actually thought he was. Just was overall a really good concept to me. Obviously, people have always been wondering what if Superman was a bad guy. How would that play out? That's exactly what this is. I love seeing, and I mean, Monique, my wife, she thinks that I love villains, which is true. I do love villains.
A good villain. And I think that Omni-Man is a villain with the proper kind of
like willpower and conviction, but also has been introduced to a new stimulus in his life that makes him see things differently, even though he wants to be what he originally was. He's like a Vegeta, but like different. So
that's characters though. What about the plot?
No, I'm saying he's one of the characters. Like, I'm saying this about the plot of how the story goes, like how they develop that whole character in the plot. I think the plot itself is a 9.5.
Okay.
From Invincible not really being invincible, getting his ass kicked all the time, to going to like they are actually at the wrong planet for all these years, trying to figure out who is actually the protector of this planet against the Viltrumites, when actually it's
already one been there.
He already been there doing his thing.
Interesting. The plot was cool. It was really, really cool. Sometimes I have to go back to like the definition of our review, right? The overall story and how it felt it was written. There were some pieces of it that wasn't written too well. Because what made Omni-Man say, I'm gonna do this right now? I guess it was when he knew that Mark was about to get his power, right?
Yeah, once his son got his powers, he said it like that. Yeah, he decided that it was time for him to get back into action.
Never mind. Okay, he was just waiting for his son to get the power so they could do it together. Never mind. That's not a plot hole. Yeah, man, the story is better than I thought. I still feel like it just some about it didn't gel with me well, but the problem is it wasn't like it was major, right? Like there was the romance part that was understandable, and that whole plot situation was completely understandable, viable, believable. Mm-hmm. Even though we didn't agree with it, we still think it was definitely tangible to happen to a 17-year-old kid.
I just recently saw it on time. Everybody was mad at him, and I'm just like, no. He's a child. Sharing his identity with his girlfriend of 4 or 5 months,
even though he should have, because of who the type of girl she was. She was strong enough to take it and not be a snitch about it and tell the world.
How he's supposed to know that?
He's supposed to know that, exactly. So it's like, damned if he do, damned if he didn't type of situation as a 17-year-old kid. See, look at us talking about that plot. It's a 9 for me.
Polo upgraded the plot on the spot. Like, all right,
it was gonna be between an 8.5 and a 9, but 9 is definitely where it falls for sure. Characters consist of reliability, overall development and growth of the characters, and how memorable were they. Everybody was fucking memorable.
What's Mark's best friend name?
William.
I hate you.
They were all spectacular. Every character. I love his mom so much. Mm-hmm. His mom was grounded, very realistic, even though she had a Superman of a human husband, or Superman of a husband.
Like when she was trying to talk sense into him.
Yep.
Like, but
she wasn't stupid either. Like, she's like, yo, I know when something ain't right because I've been with this man for
30 years.
30 years. So like, I know when something ain't going right. And she was fantastic. Mark was Amber was definitely my least favorite.
Amber was the least favorite.
Yeah. Mark was probably my second least favorite, and I liked him a lot still. And it wasn't like he wasn't likable or relatable, because he was. I just had to keep going back to a 17-year-old mindset, and I'm like, fuck, all this shit makes sense, but I just wouldn't.
A 17-year-old with new powers, he's basically like he's like Deku, but like not Deku.
Not much of a crybaby. That's Tell's least favorite excuse.
Not necessarily for Deku. I'll let y'all call Deku a crybaby, but that boy is really like, you know, living that horrible life.
He's a child, man. That's
true.
Like that's what I feel about that crybaby term. But these characters, man, back to these characters. You know what I loved about this too?
What's that?
My dude Machine Head was voiced by one of my favorite TV actors, Jeffrey Donovan from Burn Notice.
Also, that sound design for that too. Goodness gracious, how they
good.
Did his voice. It was like
he's just a beast actor too. So
yeah, the voice acting itself was good, but the filter they threw over it with the and then like he was like pitching high and low, and then like I was like, yo, they did the fuck out this voice, bro. Like that's where you got to throw in the voice for sound design because that was it. That was
creative as hell too.
Gold.
What character didn't you like the most besides Amber, obviously?
Amber. What's his name? The black superhero dude. I mean, and I guess really, I can't even say I didn't like him because I think his reasoning was solid. But I do think that like when he came at kinetically charged dude at the end, Rex Explode. At the end when they were like, no, we earned this and I'm gonna wipe this off, and they all kind of jumped at him and they came together. He's like, now we're a team, and he started helping. I was like, nah, bro, you only did that because you was about to get beat up.
Yeah, straight up.
He was about to get body bagged.
I didn't like Rex at all.
Yeah, but I think that's what he was meant to be. You know, like he was written to not be liked.
Yeah, facts. I didn't like his power. I didn't like his attitude. I didn't like his voice acting. I didn't like none of that shit.
I did like his power though. I just think that the way, because I think there's better demonstrations. Like if he could take anything and kinetically charge it and then make it explode, I think there's a lot of really cool concepts to that. Like if he touch you in your clothes, he can just make your clothes explode.
That's cool and all, but I still hate him.
I hate him too. I agree.
Characters for me get an 8.
I actually wrote the same thing, 8.
All right. And with that being said, since we have we literally have like a review scale system that does all the math for us, we don't have to tangibly rant anymore. So with that being said, animation, we both gave that a 7. Sound design, I gave it an 8.5, Tail gave it a 9. Pacing, I gave it a 9.5, Tail gave it a 9. Plot, I gave it a 9, Tail gave it a 9.5. Characters, we both gave it an 8, which leaves my overall score as an 8.4. Tail overall score is an 8.5, and the overall score for Mic Check Waifu Invincible is 8.45.
So what you think? Is that our first non-anime review?
First non-anime review?
I mean, it did pretty good.
Yeah, no, 8.45 puts it right above Bungo Stray Dogs. Under Darwin's Game, Made in Abyss, Steins Gate, Erased, Beastars, Demon Slayer, Vinland Saga, Grimgar, Promise Neverland, Fire Force, My Teen Romantic Comedy Series, and Clannad. Then Astro Lost in Space #1, obviously.
I think with that pacing though, it kind of deserves that spot because
100%.
That pacing alongside everything else really put that show in like a amazing spot.
100%. And with that, that'll wrap.
All right. So we just finished with our Invincible review.
You're now tuned into Mic Check Waifu.